Have you ever gone through some of your old files on your computer and found stories that you've written from like 10 years ago? As someone who loves writing, I've developed my style of writing and my techniques over time, and I find it really interesting to go back and see the mistakes I made as a teenager. And it reminds me of how much I've learned over the years. So today I'm actually going to go through one of my really old stories that was inspired by the game Final Fantasy X, and I'm going to see what mistakes I made and see how I can improve on the story and the mistakes that I made. So the story was called Potentia, which is Latin for power, I think. Let's give this a try and see what we can get. The crowds cheer like crazy. Oh god, so this is a present tense story. I don't like present tense, I prefer reading in past tense, and it's also in first person, which isn't, first person's fine, but these days I prefer writing in third person. I wouldn't call that a very good start, a very good hook to a story. Cheer like crazy is a very generic way of saying it, but let's keep going. So, the crowds cheer like crazy, and I need to yell my loudest to my father for him to hear me. Bit strangely worded, I'll probably just say I need to yell my loudest for my father to hear me. There's a few redundant words in there, and I always try to find ways of making my writing more concise so it's easier to say. I actually did a take right before this where I rap godded the sentence and I restarted. Dad, I Think Row C is on the other side. He can't hear me. I may need to go right up to his ear. Dad, Row C might be on the other side of the stadium. Okay, so we're at a stadium, there's lots of people. Right now I would like to get a bit of, what am I seeing right here? Obviously we'll just start a bit. I would probably start with showing the crowds roaring and the lights and just the scale of this place. Because I vaguely remember where this is set. I think it's set in Auckland somewhere in New Zealand. And I think the stadium there is enormous. So let's keep going. The game is about to begin, he yells back. I don't think that matters now, Nick. Okay, so the story has me as the main character, and that's a big no-no when it comes to writing. You don't want to make yourself the main character unless it's like a biography of sorts or a true story. Writing a fictional story about yourself, it normally comes off as like, I want this to be the real version of me, and then you get carried away and it gets really cringe. And so right now I'm but every seat is taken up. I think he realizes now that we may need to squeeze our way through the crowds to the other side. Immediately, I wouldn't say this is very interesting. I'm telling my dad that we need to get to the other side of the stadium, and I'll be honest, what I remember from this story is that this game has nothing to do with the overall plot. This is just the setup. But I'm pretty sure it gets right into things, so let's just keep going. Let's get there as quick as possible, he yells to me. No comma there. And turns to Tracy and the kids to tell her. Tracy was my dad's ex-girlfriend, so this is really awkward now. And the kids. I haven't spoken to them in a really long time, but the story was meant to be like, it was like an adventure for all of us. I can see him yelling, but I can't hear him. The crowds are getting louder, so there's a very generic kind of thing going on here where the crowds are getting louder, they cheer like crazy. The deafening roar of the crowd, like I could have said it any way it would have been better than just the crowds are getting louder. Once the news gets to her, she makes Sam, Isaac, and Georgia hold hands with her. Obviously, if I went through and rewrote the story, I'd change the names of all the characters. But if all 5 of the kids are a part of the story, That's already a lot of characters to deal with. It would be impossible to find a lost child in a crowd of 31,000 people. So there's a lot of people here. It's a big stadium, and so far, well, the feeling I get is that it's just a standard crowd. But no, this is a huge crowd, and if I were to write this now, I'd want to try and portray that a lot better. Oh boy, okay, I've got her full name here. I'm gonna blank out her last name. Georgia, she's 12 years old. Most of the time away from school is spent watching television, such as Disney Channel or music videos. Georgia hates me. I don't remember Georgia hating me. Maybe I changed this for the sake of the story. I'm not sure if this information is really necessary, and I don't recall Georgia being a major part of the beginning of the story, so I don't know why I'm saying... I don't know why I have this short biography of her. It really takes me out of the story to see this sort of weird paragraph in the middle saying who Georgia is. Jared and Daniel are old enough to look after themselves. Okay, and then we start making our way through the crowds towards the stairs. So I've suddenly gone from Jared and Daniel to we start making our way through the crowds in the same sentence, and it doesn't really flow because I've changed the subject from one thing to another. And so far we have my dad, we have Tracy, and we have 5 kids, and we have myself. It's a lot of characters to start the story with. Anyone who doesn't know these people would already be lost. But it's weird how I've just mentioned Jared and Daniel and then just gone straight to another subject. And I think what I was trying to say here is that they're old enough to look after themselves, so we start going through the crowds. But it still doesn't flow here. Eden Park Stadium, a real stadium in Auckland, New Zealand, has a really stupid layout. You could just say real stupid or just stupid. Row C isn't next to Row B, and I don't know if that's true or not. I don't even know if they name their rows C, B, whatever. Who knows? We walk upstairs to the main foyer, so now we're just going through this we're going here and we're going here and we're not meant to be here. It's not really providing anything except for an introduction to the characters, and it's not very interesting. We walk upstairs to the main foyer. It isn't as loud here, but speaking loud is still relevant. Bit of a weird way to say that. We need to go around, I say. We follow the crowded hallway is one word, towards the other side. So there's no reason to say any of this. The story probably could have started when they got to their seats, but even then, there's no reason to even tell any of this. It's not providing anything at all. We follow the crowded hallway towards the other side. When we get around halfway, I could just say when we got halfway, or when we get halfway, I hear the crowd roar like crazy. There we go again with that roar like crazy. You don't want to keep overusing the same descriptions, because it really stands out, and roar like crazy doesn't sound very good, especially in a formal story. You normally want to keep the writing formal. I can hear the commentators over a loudspeaker. So I guess there's one loudspeaker. This is why you need to have correct spelling, because that is meant to be one word, loudspeaker. But instead, it's one loud speaker. It's starting, Dad says. We find the exit to the stands and search for row C. Right here, I yell over the noise. We take our seats and ready for the game. It's New Zealand against France, so this is real, and I think this was in 2012. So this was a real game. Sometimes I can't believe how crazy a lot of us New Zealanders are about the Rugby World Cup. And it really shows when All Blacks is meant to be capitalized because of the name of a team. Shows when the All Blacks scatter across the field. I don't feel as excited as other people around me, but I stand up and clap. The All Blacks won the Rugby World Cup in 1987. True fact. Since they got this far, I wouldn't be surprised if they won. I can't remember actually if they won. But yeah, here I'm saying I don't really care about sport, but it doesn't really relate to a lot of people. I think going too into detail about how much I don't care about the sport is a bad choice to make, because there will be a lot of people who are fans of sport who would read a story and they wouldn't be able to relate to that, and it's not really a detail I need to add. As soon as the game begins, people go crazy. Again, that word crazy, it's really starting to stand out now. Jared texts on his cell phone as much as he can, and we've got another awkward biography here. Jared, gonna blank out his name. He's 16. We play Minecraft in all our spare time. Jared usually texts God knows who at any chance he gets. He doesn't like his sister Georgia at all. Now, I don't think that was actually true. I think Georgia and Jared got along fine, but also you don't really want to bring up real video games or the names of real things in your stories unless, like, if you're trying to reference something, normally you do it subtly, but let's take a movie like Ready Player One where they're referencing just hundreds and hundreds of things. Normally they get permission to do that. That's not something you write into a story. References like that are pitched when you're making a movie. And why is this coming out blue? Usually Jared. Okay, and Jared's meant to be... I think Jared is spelt wrong here too. Me, on the other hand, I'd rather interact with the world and know what's going on. Yeah, definitely not the kind of person I am today, with everything going on in the world. At the age of 17, I don't tend to carry some traits that other typical teenagers have. Kind of true. My mum would tell you that I was probably the easiest child out of all of us. And I didn't go through the grumpy teenager phase. But also another sort of awkward biography that I could probably tell through events instead of just saying it here. It's a very boring way of doing it. Daniel. Oh, another one. He's 14. Most of the time, he acts like an older teenager. Okay. Whenever he's not at school, all of his time is spent on his bed on his computer. He'll play Minecraft with us too most of the time. Really badly worded. Daniel is Jared and George's brother. Another weird way of saying that. Sam and Isaac are the younger brothers. So, it's a really weird way to say that. My thoughts are distracted by the All Blacks getting closer to scoring a try. The first try of the game. The audience gets really excited. Another really bad way to describe how excited these people are. 31,000 people getting excited would be like a roar so loud it would shake the benches, and it'd be significant. It would be better. It'd be more significant than really excited. So, and that should be real excited, not really excited. Or you could just go with excited too. Heaps of people stand up and cheer them on. Really, so there's a lot of generic ways of this. Mostly here I'm just saying what's happening in the most generic way. It's not very interesting, not very immersive. I don't know who is about to score. I guess it would be the All Blacks. I don't even know who is on the team because I'm not a fan. Oh, okay, so I'm talking about the person who's about to score. I like earth science games and anything imaginarily creative. Weird way to say that. The idea of an entire planet of people watching you run a ball to a line isn't my idea of enjoyment. That's I still stand by that, but also not really a necessary detail to have in the story. I could probably express that through character dialogue or their actions, like what's about to happen in a moment. So the player carrying the ball jumps for the line and scores. The crowd goes crazy again with that word crazy. Everyone around me stands, so I blend in, I stand up. That should be swapped around. Everyone around me stands, so I stand too to blend in. The thought of feeling awkward for not standing up just seems random and funny to me. That was probably an unnecessary line. So I smile. I hear Sam complain to Tracy that he's hungry. I don't know how I heard him. Unfortunately for him, I doubt there is anyone who wants to miss any of the game to go to one of the food stands except for me. So I could have just said here, fortunately for him, I wouldn't mind missing part of the game. I don't mind missing out on some of the game. Yeah, there we go. I'm almost repeating myself by saying the same sort of things over and over, and details just become really unnecessary. Sam, I yell to him. Do you want me to get you some chips or something? He nods. I turn to Dad. Dad, I'm gonna get some chips for Sam. So, just generic saying stuff. It's not very interesting. Yeah, he yells back. All good. Wow, the story isn't very interesting, but at least it's not like the character wakes up in the morning, they do their morning routine, and then they go to the stadium. I leave the row and enter the aisle. The aisle is not spoiled during the game. As I walk upstairs, I feel some. There's meant to be a comma, and then I feel some taps on my shoulder. It should be I feel a tap on my shoulder. Just sounds more concise. So, comma, I turn around to face Daniel, but I don't need that, so I could just say I turn around to face Daniel instead of putting so there. I'll go with you, he yells. Alright, I yell back. You could have... The dialogue could be way better, it could show character. How would Daniel say it? I think they'd be like, yeah, I'm gonna come with you. Because he's bored too, I imagine. He was never really into sport. Alright, I yell back. I'd probably say, I'll probably ask him if he's not interested in the game either, and he'll be yeah, and I'll be like, me too. We go to the foyer where more people watch the screens. The screens that were previously mentioned should be where people were watching large screens up on the walls or something like that. We exit through one of the doors to the outside area where we find the crowded food stalls. But that sentence wasn't very good. At least it's not as loud here. This is going to take a while, I say to Daniel. Oh God, he says. Well, let's not waste any time. Look for the shop with the smallest amount of people, I say. And I do not speak like that. That is, nah, that doesn't sound like me. That might be easier said than done. Daniel wouldn't say that. You start hunting for a shop that has the least amount of people. Daniel's right. There are so many people here, that's what I was meant to say, that it's hard to tell if they're waiting for food, lining up, or standing around. I look up on the wall of the stadium to see a massive projector screen showing the game. This makes me wonder where the projection is coming from. Well, obviously a projector. I don't know why I'd wonder that. It's something I just need to know for no reason. Yeah, no reason, because I'm sure there is a reason for me looking up at the projector, but no real reason for the story, and I wouldn't actually do that in real life, so I don't know why that's there. I follow the beam of light to a projector perched high on the pole. What are you looking at? Daniel asks. Just seeing where the... ... Wow, Daniel interrupts me. Look at the clouds. Okay, so there is a reason I need to look up at the projector, but I would have probably looked up... I could have just looked up at the clouds anyway. Or maybe had thunder... had some thunder or lightning to make me look up at the clouds. Would have been way better than having me look up at a projector for no reason. I turn my focus to the sky behind the projector. Not only is the late sunset light giving the clouds an orange glow, but the clouds are spinning rather quickly in a large spiral around the city of Auckland. There could be a way to shorten that. Future Nick here. One thing I forgot to mention is that there is a serious lack of colour. And colour is very important. When you're describing your scenery, you really want to have colour. Otherwise, the way you describe things will be very bland, just as a world without colour would be very bland. I see lightning flashing inside the spiral of clouds, and vaguely hearing the thunder follow. Vaguely. Daniel, Nick says in an alarming tone. Do you think there will be a tornado? No, I reply. New Zealand hasn't got a big enough landmass to conjure a big enough... hold up. New Zealand hasn't got a big enough landmass to conjure one big enough to cause too much damage or anything, as a matter of fact. That is a really badly worded sentence. I think what I was trying to say is that New Zealand's landmass isn't big enough to conjure a tornado. There have actually been tornadoes in the past, though. Small ones mostly, but not nearly as big as, say, Tornado Alley in the US. Then what's happening? I don't know, it might just be a coincidence. It'll most likely be a simple thunderstorm, one word thunderstorm, or something. And there's a lot of or somethings. That sucks. But while it's there, I'm going to take a photo. Daniel pulls out his cell phone, holds up for a moment, shifting his fingers on the screen, along the screen, and then hold it up to take a photo. And then, okay, good idea, I say. It's not every day you see that happen. But now there are so many people drawing attention to the sky. I see more people taking a photo. I could say, now there are more people looking up at the sky, or something like that. Saying drawing attention to is a bit long. You could just say looking up. Maybe I've underestimated one word. This unusual weather. The wind is picking up and the temperature is warming. You can't really know if the temperature is warming. Maybe you're just getting warmer for some reason. But you can't say the temperature is warming. That's kind of something. It's something that would have to be very significant and very sudden if you knew that the temperature was warming. Why would it get warmer before a storm, I say to myself? That's very normal. Storms are caused by heat in the atmosphere. It's getting warmer, Daniel asks. More lightning flashes. I think we should go inside and not worry about the chips, I say. Might be wise to do so. That is not something Daniel would say at all. We head inside, where the crowds are blocking our way through the foyer. Maybe we should go upstairs and around, I suggest. I have no clue where we will end up. We walk up the rather crowded stairs to another foyer, with large windows facing over the shops, outside towards the ocean. That is another strange sentence. It doesn't flow very well. But also, I'm not getting a good understanding of the layout of this place. I'm just like, we go up to this place, to another foyer, and then we go to another foyer. It's not painting a very good picture for me in any way. So I would have a lot more descriptions of this place. Not over detailing, but more the feel of the place, I would say. The one fact I notice is that there is no exit. There are lots of exits in the stadium. Wait! I yell in the noise, over the noise it should be. I think we took a wrong turn. Well done, Nick, Daniel mocks. And there's meant to be a comma there. I turn back around to go downstairs, but stop to take a look out the window. And here's another thing. I do a lot of I saw and I felt, and you don't want to do that, because that takes away the feeling. You could just say, I took a glance out the window instead of I took a look out the window. And there will be a lot of this, I'm sure. I'm sure there has been a lot, but I'm only noticing it now. Daniel, I yell, take a look at this. I point out the window towards the ocean. Massive waves crash against the wharf and oceanside boardwalk. They spray water at least 15 feet into the air and onto the shore. Really bad description of that. I would have said something like, the waves blasted 50 feet into the air as they crashed against the shore. Something like that is miles better, even though it's a simple change, miles better than what I've got here. The clouds are swirling faster than before, comma, and that was maybe just the clouds are swirling faster, comma, and the lightning is more frequent. Other people around the foyer also see this. So I guess people have never seen a storm before. So far, there's nothing unusual about this storm except for the swirliness of it. But not many people might not notice that right away. So what the hell, Daniel says. I can just, so if the storm is weird and it is swirling in a really weird way, I'd probably describe it differently and be a little more, I would detail it a little more, I think. To try and say why the storm is weirder than other storms. Follow me, I command. I'll just say follow me, I say. We walk past everyone to a door that exits out to the balcony. A sign above reads no exit. I open it anyway and step out to the balcony. If it's a no exit area, it would probably be locked up in a time like this, but also in a stadium with 32,000 people, they'd probably want every inch of space they can get. They'd probably have those balconies open. I open it anyway and step out onto the balcony. A gust of wind meets me as I walk up to the rails of the balcony. I'm like really worried about this, Daniel says over the wind. That sounds like Daniel. The way he says that, I'm like really worried about this. There's a sudden flash of light and a massive ungodly bang. I jump back as lightning thumps. Thumps is not a good word for lightning. Thumps a tree outside the stadium. Whoa! So, there's something strange about this paragraph here from Daniel's dialogue. He says over the wind. Then there's a sudden flash of light and ugly bang. I jump back as lightning thumps the tree outside the stadium. Whoa. I think that's me saying whoa, which I don't actually say. I don't say whoa. I'm like, oh my god, or oh my goodness. This should be a new paragraph because this section belongs to Daniel and his actions and dialogue. This section belongs to what I see and my actions and then my dialogue. And if this is Daniel's dialogue, my actions of jumping back should not be in this sentence. When you're writing, you want to keep each character's actions and their thoughts separate from other people's actions, thoughts, and dialogue. Otherwise, it just gets confusing. So I don't know if this is Daniel's or my dialogue, but I'm pretty sure it's meant to be mine. I see the people down below at the shops scream and panic. Scream and panic. Another very generic description of what's happening. I see the smitten tree crash to the ground in flames. I look to the city. So here's another. Here, see this? I see the people down below at the shops scream in panic. I see the smitten tree crash to the ground in flames. I look at the city to see the clouds swirling around the center of it. I then notice something unnaturally strange about the storm. The center of the storm is sort of clear, like an eye of a hurricane. So there's a lot of I look, I see, I notice. And you want to get rid of all of that in a story. It's so unnecessary. You could say the people below, because down and below are the same thing. The people below, the people at the shops below, scream in panic. And now we're changing the subject. So we've gone from the people to back to the smitten tree. So I think the smitten tree should be first. The smitten tree crashes to the ground in flames. The city. Here we go. The clouds swirling around the city center. Seem unnatural. Whoops, I am really messing this up. Alright. That's way better. The clouds swirling around the city center seem unnatural. Oh my goodness. What am I doing here? And the center, so this is taking US, this is the way we spell center in New Zealand. This is New Zealand spelling for center. It's kind of annoying. The center of the storm is sort of clear. The eye of the storm is clear like a hurricane. The eye of the storm is clear like a hurricane. There we go. That's a way better way of saying it. I think it could be a hurricane, I yell. Another bolt of lightning shoots from the sky. So I guess when lightning strikes, you don't really describe it as shooting. But we'll just keep going. I brace myself for another bang, but this time it somehow stops in midair. I think what this is trying to say is that the lightning kind of freezes in place. It looks as if it's charging up a bolt of lightning. But it is a bolt of lightning, so I think the lightning is striking, but then it's frozen in time and it's charging. It's like it's hit something in midair and it's charging it up. I think that's what's happening here. What? Daniel and I say in confusion. You don't need to have people just say generic things. You can say what their reaction is. You can be like, my mouth dropped open, or something like that. It's the weirdest thing I have ever seen. Yeah, well, you don't need to say that. You've already described the storm as unnatural, as weird, so you don't need to keep saying, oh, this is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. Like, anyone who's reading this, it would be weird for them too. The sphere of lightning gets bigger and then shoots off towards the beach. What sphere? Let's keep going. Where was I? As it flies, it loses, yeah. Wrong spelling of loses. It's charged to reveal what looks like a brown pod of sorts. Some sort. It could just say pod of sorts. It blares through the air and plummets into the ground near the beach. You could just say plummets into the beach. What was that? Daniel asks. I don't know, I reply, once again dialogue that is so unnecessary. We look around to see more thunderbolts creating these pods and shooting them in random directions. I turn my attention to the buildings under the eye of the spinning storm. Random loose objects. Were. Are. It should be are. Here's the problem with writing in present tense. For me, anyway, is that I keep mixing up the past and present tense words. So that should be random loose objects are flying off the buildings and getting sucked into it. I look back at the pod that crashed into the beach. It starts shaking and wobbling. What is that? I ask myself again. It then breaks open and some strange massive bird-looking creature that looks as big as a car. What? Hold up. It then breaks open and some strange massive bird-looking creature that looks as big as a car. I think I'm missing some words there. That's weird. It should be. Here's how I would phrase it. It then breaks open, and a strange a strange car-sized bird-looking creature emerges. That's a weird one. Maybe just leave the car-sized thing entirely. It's hard to tell from this distance. It stretches its wings and flies up into the city. Okay, so my character is seeing all this stuff happen, but I'm not getting. And the characters are like, "What is that? What's happening?" But they're not acting surprised. We're not getting any emotion out of them. Things are just happening, and the characters. From what's being said here, the characters are just standing there like, what? And that's not a very real way of reacting to something strange. If you want something to be strange, the characters need to feel uneasy. They need to maybe be sweating or like breathing heavily, something that tells you that they're afraid maybe. What the hell, Daniel says. I'm not completely sure what to think of this. And instead of saying that, we could instead have the character have ask all these questions to themselves, trying to figure out what is happening. As my eyes follow the bird, my attention is drawn back to the center of the city. How is this possible? I say in disbelief. The buildings are stretching unnaturally and getting sucked into the eye of the storm. Obviously taken from Final Fantasy X. The sky tower dislodges from the ground and slowly rises into the storm. Is that some sort of portal or vortex? Daniel asks. Suddenly I see one of the bird pods fly towards us. So instead of saying I see this happen, you could say suddenly there was a flash and something struck the building beneath us. Instead of saying I see that one of these bird pods fly towards us, because if it's happening so fast, your character's not going to have a moment to really describe things in detail, because the story is being told from the perspective of me. If these things are happening quickly, I don't have time to explain it in the story. So, and that helps immerse the reader by seeing into the thoughts of the character, and their thoughts are everywhere. They're not seeing things properly. They're missing details, and they only see flashes of things. That's going to make the story so much better if you lose some of those details when things are happening really quickly. Suddenly, alright, so I get the dreaded feeling in my stomach as it collapses beneath us, and we find ourselves falling to the ground. So this is really weird. When your character is in a situation like this, like say they start falling, then it's not I feel my stomach, I feel that dreaded feeling in my stomach. It's more like suddenly I'm falling and my stomach is cramping up, and suddenly I don't know which I'm flipping. I don't know which way I'm facing, but also it collapses underneath us. It doesn't really work because suddenly you're finding yourself falling. You're not really thinking about the other person who's next to you and saying, we find ourselves falling. It's I find myself falling, because I don't really know at this moment whether or not Daniel is falling either. I try to grab the first thing I can and grab onto one of the creature's legs and get pulled upwards. So if I'm trying to grab onto anything, I might not know of right away that I've grabbed onto the bird's legs. Also, that needs an apostrophe and us, comma. I find myself being carried somewhere towards the city. The screeches the bird gives off are defining. The screeches the bird gives off are defining. That's brilliant. It's meant to say deafening, I think. You could say the bird, but saying that the bird's screeches are deafening doesn't really work. You want to describe their screeches as something that is deafening, not just say that it's deafening, because that is a very boring way to say it, and it's a really weird way to say it. The screeches the bird gives are deafening, really weirdly worded. I take note that I am far off the ground, so I would probably describe this as suddenly the ground fell away from beneath me, and suddenly the ground's just gone. I am so far up, and everything's just flying by. Like, I can't describe all this while I'm in this situation. So if you want to immerse your reader, you need to describe it as if you're in that situation. You're missing details. Everything is just what it is. It's not, I see the ground, I'm far from the ground. It's like oh my god, it's just gone. You know, I can't take my eyes away from the sight. Very bad way to say that the character is scared. All I worry about is that I might fall. So don't say, I worry that I might fall. You're like, oh god, if I fall, I'm dead, you know. You don't want to say, I'm worried that I might fall. I hate heights, so instead of saying I hate heights, you could describe the heights in a way that a scared person would describe it. Not say I hate heights. The bird travels towards a cluster of buildings known as Spaghetti Junction. So that's a very boring way of saying it. If the right moment comes, I could let go and land on one of the bridges. Well, you've got a fear of heights, you probably wouldn't want to let go of the bird at all. But too late, I feel a thud in my shoulder as the bird kicks me off. So instead of saying, I feel the thud, you just say, there's a thud in my shoulder, my grip, and my hand slips. All I know is that, bang, my shoulder's been hit, and now I'm falling. And now I'm saying, I fall towards one of the bridges. Suddenly, you're spinning, everything's flying past, and then, bang, you hit glass, you hit something, and you're out. And that is how the chapter should have ended. It shouldn't have been, I fall towards a car, I brace myself for landing, I hit the windscreen hard as hell. So that was chapter 1 of Potentia, and I've criticized the hell out of the first chapter, and it's taken, my god, probably like 45 minutes. I could probably go through and see how I can improve this, just like I did for the sentence up here. I could go through and try and polish it up, but if I'm being honest, I'll take out this first half where we went to the wrong aisle, and I just start from when the All Blacks are about to score or something. But I'd probably move the game altogether. It's not really necessary to the plot, and I know that now the storm is the focus, but it's because it's inspired by Final Fantasy X, and Final Fantasy X starts at a game of Blitzball, and so that is why I chose to start the story here. And it's alright to make stories inspired by other stories, but you know, eventually you just gotta come away from the inspiration and try and write your own thing. And so I might make a second video all about how I improved the story, how I improved the first chapter. I might take a look at the other chapters, because this is I think the story goes all the way, it's chapter 14. There are way too many characters introduced when the two characters that this chapter focuses on is Nick and Daniel, and even then Daniel doesn't really play a really significant part of the story anyway. In fact, I'll be tempted to just remove the entire first chapter and start with the second chapter, where Nick wakes up and suddenly everything's just going to hell. The storm is sucking everything up, these crazy birds are flying everywhere. That would be an interesting place to start the story, I reckon, because it jumps straight into the action, and it and then I can get all my characters introduced when Nick meets back up with the other characters. So that's that for Potentia Chapter 1. I'm gonna go ahead and end the video here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in another video.